Welcome in to the Tighten Up Podcast on the A to Z Sports Podcast Network.
I'm Jack Gentry alongside my partner, Austin Huff. You can find us both on Twitter. I'm at Jack A. Gentry. He is at Austin Huff. We are the Tighten Up Podcast. Give us a follow on Twitter, at Tighten Up Pod. Give us a follow on Instagram, at Tighten Up Podcast. And as always, we're under the A to Z Sports umbrella, so go make sure you're following A to Z Sports on every social media platform.
This is Sode number 73, the Steve Hutchison of Sodes. Huh? How about that? Old Stevie Hutchinson. He finished his 12-year Hall of Fame career by starting 12 games for the Titans in 2012. How about that? 12-year Hall of Fame career, started 12 games in 2012. That's pretty cool, I think.
That was like the 2012 apocalypse, or was that 2010?
No, 2012. 2012.
Oh, so I was right. Okay, 2012. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you know that because of the John Cusack movie that came out.
Yeah, exactly. This is either a Hall of Fame sode or an apocalyptic sode. You guys will be the judge.
And you know what? We'll take either one at this point because you guys. Well, I don't want to say football is back. I don't want to be one of those people that's like, football is back. No. Football practice is back. We're still a long way away from football being back. Football practice is back, which is exciting because that is the precursor to football being back. But if you get excited for like overly excited for spring, like training camp, like that, getting excited for training camp is like getting excited for like the trivia slides that air before the previews, that air before the movie. Like we want to watch the movie, but sure, the trivia slides keep us entertained until the movie starts, right? So like it's okay to be excited for him, but like let's not overly hype these things.
It is good news though, because that means the Hall of Fame game is on the horizon.
And this is the
August 5th.
I believe our boy Alan Bell tweeted that this is the final week of without football. I mean, preseason football.
So technically, would you be willing to go as far as to say football's back on August 5th, or are you football's back now because training camp's here?
I don't know. Football's back. Well, to me, football's back September 12th. That's
okay. That's fair too. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, like it's training camp. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm hyped, and you should be hyped too. The buzz, we're starting to feel the buzz. It's back in the air. It's starting to feel like, it's the end of summer. The back to school commercials are on TV. Guys are sweating in training camp. Like it's a good time right now. And it's a good time on this podcast because we are joined by our guy, Uncle Mickey Ryan from Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone. And if you're wondering if Mickey Ryan is as good of a dude in person as he seems on the radio, the answer is yes. It's oh hell yes. And he is going to join us. We're going to talk Titans with him. Who knows what we're going to talk about? We haven't even recorded the interview with that yet. Who knows what we're going to get into, but I guarantee you it will be awesome because Mickey is awesome. And yeah, we've got so much to get into. So let's just go ahead and get into it. But first, let's get a word from Smash Pest Control. I got a question for you guys. You ready for this? Do you have menacing bugs in and around your home? It's okay to say yes. It's okay to say yes, because then you need to contact Smash Pest Control, the best pest control service in Middle Tennessee. Not only will they take care of your mosquito problems, they also offer crawl space control and are fully equipped to rid your home of termites and bed bugs. Anything in or around your house, trust Smash Pest to take care of. Smash Pest Control hangs their hat on their Smash Guarantee. If they don't smash your pest control problems, the service is free. Right now, you can get your initial pest control service started by mentioning A to Z, just $79. How about it, huh? $79. That's cheaper than a meal at Cane Prime. These guys do amazing work all over the mid-state. Make sure to check them out online at smashpest.com, where you will find the many services Smash Pest provides, along with their excellent customer reviews. Need help with your pest problems? Give Smash Pest Control a call. Write this number down, 615-581-7473. And make sure to tell them that A to Z sent you. With that said, let's talk Titan.
I hear the train a-coming, it's rolling around the bend. and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm sucking.
What is up, Flameheads? Welcome into the Tighten Up Podcast. Today is July 28th, 2021, and Lamar Jackson says he plans to change his number after he wins a Super Bowl, which the alternate headline for that story is Lamar Jackson has no plans to change his number.
Yes. Yes. No, I mean, come on.
Happy training camp reporting day, everyone. Happy training camp reporting day. Let's go.
He
If you're
set
not
himself
hyped-
up for that. Totally and completely set
I
himself
know.
up.
Lamar, what are you doing, dude?
Come on.
Like, plus, I mean, look, yeah, is it a little weird for a running back to wear number 8? Yes, but I mean, now with the NFL allowing all numbers, I think it's it'll be more commonplace. We've got so much to get into today because it's training camp reporting day. The buzz is in the air. The feeling is there. I don't know about you, Jack, but I got a little chub going. I'm getting excited for football season. And there's just so many. It's one of those days where it's like, we're not going to really have segments. We're just going to hit on all of the news and notes coming your way with the Titans. And it's a lot.
It's training camp, and let's be honest, the Titans, there's a few position battles that I know a lot of us are already going to have our eyes on. New additions. They brought in a couple guys this week.
Yep.
So Mike Vrabel's back to being his I guess sarcastic self in these press conferences. He had some funny things to say today. He also had some very interesting things to say today. I think if you guys didn't listen or haven't heard what he said about the kicker battle, about the backup quarterback battle, y'all will be pretty interested for the next hour or so.
Yeah, we're going to get into it all. We got some kicker talk. Obviously, I mean, it wouldn't be a Tighten Up podcast without Jack and I spending way too much time on kicker.
We're not going to talk about kickers for an hour. That's not what I meant.
No, not an hour. Probably just a half hour. We're going to talk. I got a case for Blake Bortles. He was cut by the Packers. I got a case to bring him to Nashville for the Titans backup job. We're going to talk some injuries. Going to talk just a lot. We've got a lot on our docket today. We're also going to talk Madden ratings on the other side of Mickey Ryan joining us, and of course, remember the Titan. But let's start here with the Titans signing. You alluded to it just a second ago. The Titans have added a pair of free agent defensive tackles on the eve of training camp, agreeing to deals with defensive tackle Kyle Peko. Peko, am I pronouncing that correctly?
I think that's how you say it, because he had an older brother, I believe. I think this was his brother. If not, it'd be a strange coincidence. His older brother played for, I believe it was the Bengals for a little while. He was the big dude, the big interior lineman, maybe a nose tackle.
Okay.
So that's why I think it's Peko.
Right. Well, which is
you
good.
Remember the he played with the Broncos too, had the crazy hair coming out the back of his helmet.
Right. Yes. So I mean, it's perfect timing. The Titans lose, or Nashville loses a Pekka, and we gain a Peko. So I'll take it. That's especially where we're at. Also, another great name signed to the team, defensive tackle Anthony Rush. Which, if you're the Titans, you're going to sign a defensive lineman with the last name of Rush. I think it's heavily needed.
If he's good, Hank Ten has to capitalize and make Rush Hour shirts.
The only nice. I agree with that. Don't you? You never touch a black man's radio. I don't think the only way this guy could be a better signing for the Titans is if his first name was Pass. Honestly, it's
Pass Rush.
You're right. I would take him. Like the Titans needed that this offseason, and here they are. The Titans went out and signed it. Like John Robinson took us literally when he said we need to better the rush. And so he went on and got Anthony. Peko has played with the Broncos, Bills, and Colts in his NFL career. He'll fill the hole that Daquan Jones, who the Titans lost in free agency, as you remember. And he'll also fill the role of this week's abrupt retirement by Avery Jones. All right, cool. Avery, you just want to...
Oh man, Avery, it was a full career at least.
Just gonna up and out of here.
You know who? Going back to Anthony Rush real quick.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Titans had a guy in practice squad whose name was literally D Liner? Do you remember that? We may have talked about that on the podcast, but his name was literally D-E-E Liner.
D Liner.
That conversation reminded me of D Liner.
You can't be a wide receiver and play and be named D.
Oh, and he played D line. Is the perfect
you
part
can't
about it.
you can't be a quarterback with the name of D liner. Like you have one position you are allowed to
Your
play.
parents pretty much picked your position before you were confident.
If you're 5'8", 190, it doesn't matter. You're playing on the defensive line with the last name of D liner. They could have named you literally anything. So I'm sorry, dude. Your path is already set for you. Anthony Rush, dude, a big body dude, 6'4", 361 pounds, primarily utilized as a run stopper. He spent time with the Seahawks, Eagles, Bears, Packers, and Raiders. It's always good when you're signing a guy who has spent a lot of time with a lot of different teams. So
he can't quite find his home, but maybe this is the stop that really does it.
Right. Maybe this is where he breaks out. Maybe this is the stop. Like 5 other teams have passed on him, but maybe
it's like the Breon Borders story, wasn't it? Because he had made stops all across the league, and he's stuck in Tennessee now. I believe he's been cut.
Is the big Breon Borders podcast. Is Borders still on the roster?
That's a good question. I thought I saw where he was released, but they may have picked him back up.
Look, Borders are closing around nationwide, so I get that.
Yeah,
Barnes and Nobles are.
I think he is still. I believe Borders is still on this roster, which I mean. You look
Titans,
at that in the secondary, and it's pretty deep. I know we're going to talk about the secondary in a little bit.
Titans should take a flyer out on a Breon Barnes and Noble because they'll still be you can still get a few more years out of them. Mm-hmm. And then you got to move on to Breon Amazon.
It's not
Rush
Breon Blockbuster.
Rush. Anthony Rush has played in 14 career games and totaled 14 tackles. So he's averaging a tackle per game, which with as bad as the defense was last year, I'll take that from the
Or like special teams. I mean, if he can, you just find a way to get one a game.
Yeah. A few notable roster moves. The Titans announced that edge rusher Bud Dupree, new guy in town, guy we're all very excited for, was placed on the physically unable to perform list, the old PUP list. Which
that's no surprise though.
Right?
He's coming off an ACL.
Not. Yes, and it's and so now you're probably like, remind me again what the PUP list is. Which first of all, PUP list always sounds adorable. Unfortunately, it's not. As
very tragic at times.
Yeah, it is. Players can be moved off the PUP list to the active roster at any time prior to the start of the regular season. So it's not an end all be all. It's not like he's down and out for the count for like 8 weeks or whatever. If a player finishes preseason on the PUP list, they can be placed on the regular season PUP list. Players on the PUP list do not count against the 53-man roster, but do count against the 90-man roster limit. So it's essentially a chance for the Titans to get more bodies in at camp.
Your biggest nightmare with the PUP list is what happened to Adoree Jackson last year.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
That is your worst nightmare. That's probably not going to be the case with Bud Dupree or Caleb Farley. Caleb Farley, I don't believe is on the PUP list. I think he's non-football injury list.
Yes, he is on the NFI list.
Okay.
He was placed on the non-football injury list. Obviously, Titans first round pick this year, had that back injury at Virginia Tech that everyone was terrified about during the pre-draft process. But like John Robinson hit us with it's more of like a Jeffrey Simmons type situation, which hopefully it is, because Jeffrey Simmons turned out great. Jeffrey Simmons was drafted injured. Caleb Farley also drafted injured. Hopefully without this injury and without sitting out last season for COVID, Caleb Farley would have been a top 10 pick in the NFL. So
no doubt. Just like Jeff Simmons at Mississippi State, the Titans would not have been able to get him if he didn't tear up his knee before he was entering the draft. And Caleb Farley, it's you finish. I
was just going to say he qualifies for the NFI list because the injury was suffered in college and not in the pro ranks.
Yeah. So this is the thing with first round picks. And I remember it being kind of similar with Jeff Simmons. When he's drafted, you're like, okay, they're going to be ready week one. They're going to be ready. They have to be ready. It's NFL. They got to get ready for their first, week in pro football. Jeff Simmons was unable to. The knee's a little different. You don't want to rush a knee. The back is really different. Now, I'm not a back doctor, obviously. I'm a podcaster.
Wait.
But
hold up.
Yeah, sorry if I misled you with my credentials. But
well, son of a bitch. I thought this whole time, 73 episodes in this whole time, I legit thought you were a back doctor. I thought you were a chiropractor. That's why I was so excited to do this podcast with you.
But that's the thing is all these Titans fans are very anxious. And obviously with the way the secondary and defense in general performed last year, they really want to see Caleb Farley out there. But remember, let's rewind the clock back to the draft. When the Titans selected Caleb Farley, he didn't have all the feeling in his toes. His nerves were still damaged. I mean, a back surgery takes a toll on you for a little while. Now, that's not me saying I don't think he's going to be ready week one, because that was kind of his guarantee he made when he was selected, wasn't it? So I believe in that, but we can't start freaking out and panicking when we hear these guys are on these lists, when we fully know, we've known all along that they've been dealing with serious injuries. So not concerned about Caleb Farley, not concerned about Bud Dupree. I think they'll both be ready in time. It's just kind of how training camp should start with these guys. You don't want to rush them back.
Right. And the rules on when a player on the NFI list can get back on the field are the same for those that are on the PUP list. Again, the PUP list. It's so cute. It's so adorable. I agree with you, Jack. It's not, look, better to be safe than sorry right now. Yeah. There's no need to get these guys on the field. You know that the talent level is there for Caleb Farley. You know that it's there for Bud Dupree. Make sure they are healthy, because if you rush them back and if they injure themselves even bad or even worse, and they don't get to play at all this season, then you're really screwed.
You know how I know they're going to take as many precautions as possible?
What's that?
Well, with the D-line, look at the depth. Who's behind Bud Dupree?
Yeah.
Is it Roberson? Is Roberson the guy that you're kind of putting your trust into at the edge rusher position there? And behind Caleb Farley, you go back to the well of 2020. You go back to that Breon Borders role that Christian Fulton will have to spend time outside, and then you're going to have to bring in a guy and it could be Molden who plays, the slot, but I don't know that that's where they see him fitting in. So they're going to be super cautious with both of those guys because of the positions they play and because of the struggles the Titans had at those particular positions last year.
If there are two things that we spend probably way too much time on this podcast, it's uniforms and it's kickers.
Yes, sir. Bread and butter.
So let's talk about the kicker situation. Rabel spoke. He did his, pre-training camp press conference and was asked about the kicking situation. And he spoke extremely confidently about it. And I quote, "We'll work with those guys and see where it goes. We're comfortable and positive that those guys are going to go out and compete." He's talking about all of the kickers that are in camp. "We want to give Tucker McCann an opportunity. He was really impressive as we worked our way through training camp last year, and then he got injured. We'll get those guys to compete, and like any other position, if we have to bring guys in, we can do that."
Yeah.
Oh, no, wait. Oh, sorry. When I said confidently, I meant no confidence whatsoever in the world. He's basically saying it's open competition. And if these guys suck, we'll just bring in more bodies to compete for the job. There's no clear cut decision. So you're probably wondering, what about Stephen Gostkowski? Stephen Gostkowski, who sucked for the first part of last year, he finished the year strong. Made 10 of 11 kicks down the stretch last season. But you're probably like, well, what about Gostkowski? Is he not the starter going into camp? Vrabes was asked about Gostkowski, and he said, quote, "Until he retires, I would imagine that anyone would be a potential option, but I don't know." that
very vague.
That is not a very glowing review from Vrabes right there. That sounds like the way adults talk about their elderly parents that they have to take care of. They're just waiting for them to die. Vrabes is just ready to collect that inheritance and move on with his life.
Yeah, he's pretty much saying, I'm not worried about Gostkowski until Gostkowski can't make it up the stairs at home. The Titans right now, they've got two kickers on the training camp roster. Yeah. That's Tucker McCann out of Missouri. Who Vrabel mentioned today, and also Blake Haubeil out of Ohio State.
Wait a minute. Hang on, Jack. Do you hear that? Do you hear that? Can we add the Undertaker theme here? I think I hear Tucker McCann's music, Jack. I think I hear Tucker McCann's music. You thought that the Missouri kicker was dead? Yeah, right, dude. That's exactly when Mizzou gets you, right when you least expect them to. All right. Tucker McCann is back.
You don't have to be preaching this to me. You may have to start preaching this to the Big Ten commissioner, but We'll cross that bridge when we get
whoa,
there.
whoa. Oh, you think conference expansion means they're just gonna up and move? Like, what the hell is that supposed to mean, bro?
I mean, hey, if I was commissioner, I would be like, do you want me to open the door for you, or do you got it yourself?
Oh wow,
That's just
Ole
what I would
Miss.
say. That's just
a lot of conference championships from Ole Miss coming. And and what's your second favorite team? Vanderbilt.
National titles, though.
Get out of here.
But so Vrabel did say this about McCann. He obviously likes the guy, or else he would have done away with him after last season.
We shouldn't be shocked. His name isn't Tucker McCant. Okay,
that's true. He said that McCann was impressive early on last year, but injuries happen, and that's what happened to McCann, which slowed him down a little, and probably why they want to give him another real look. But this Blake Hobbiel, he finished the season at Ohio State hitting his last 10 field goals. His long in college was a 55-yarder against Northwestern. I watched it, and it was good from 60. He's got a strong leg, and my favorite part about this is Mike Vrabel still has strong ties to Ohio State.
Yeah, obviously.
He has done his due diligence, and he knows all about Hobbiel and what they've said about him up there, his work ethic, whether or not he can cut it in the NFL. This is not just an I went to Ohio State, so I'm going to sign an Ohio State kicker guy. This dude has the leg. He's accurate. He's kicked in big games, 3 for 3 in the college football playoff last year. So he's dealt with pressure in high leverage situations. I think it's going to be a good battle, and I'm excited for this. Number one, for content. There's going to be constant updates about this battle because people are still going to ask. That was a big problem. The defense was a huge problem last year. Kicking was very inconsistent, so there's a reason why people are going to ask about this. Kickers, at the end of the day, they're going to win you or lose you a game or two each season. It will be because of a kicker making or not making a kick. We saw last year it almost was 2 games. Gostkowski missed a big one against the Steelers, and he did his damnedest to cost the Broncos game to start the season. This is going to be a fun battle, and I know we're going to have to draw a line in the sand, Austin. I'm going Blake Hobbiel. I think Blake Hobbiel is the guy for the job.
Wow. I feel betrayed. I
like McCann, and the fact that McCann also punted for a few years in college while also handling kicking duties is impressive. But Brett Kern's not going anywhere. I'm just hoping that we finally get to turn the page on Gostkowski's chapter as a Titan and go younger and find a guy who can hopefully last for a while.
Are we putting the StephCon system? Is it time we update the StephCon system?
I'm okay with that.
It's been a while. Wait, hold on. Let me dust it off real quick.
Man, we do need the StephCon system for the regular season, though.
I need to dust off the old StephCon alert system because it has been so long since we've used it. Do we put this at StephCon 1?
StephCon 1 being the most dangerous?
Yeah, because isn't 1?
I think that's how it goes. It works low.
DEFCON 5 is like the least.
Yeah.
And then DEFCON 1 is like the highest.
No,
right?
I wouldn't put it there yet because Gostkowski didn't have camp last year, did he? And he came in and eventually sucked. But he also was coming off like a hip surgery last year. So
it's weird. He didn't play like he didn't have camp last year.
I would like him, if Vrabel is seriously considering him, I would like him to be in camp. I would like them to have a clear view of all 3 kickers.
Remember that first Monday night game last year when we're like, yeah, we got Steven Gostkowski, Hall of Fame, legendary kicker.
It was like, shit, we have Steven Gostkowski?
He missed 3 kicks. And it was like, this game could have been over
Denver,
like a month ago.
The easiest place to kick. He did it in Denver.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm done.
He hit the last one.
He finished strong last season, and he's good from deep. But I don't want to be putting all of my eggs in a 43-year-old kicker's basket.
So should we do a long-term bet? You've got what is it? Hobbiel?
And Gostkowski's 37, not 43, but still. I'm going, Blake Hobbiel. He's going to be the Titans kicker week 1.
Gostkowski's 37, but he kicks like a 43-year-old. Am I right?
So okay, we're going Hobbiel versus McCann.
Yeah, and I'll go McCann. And watch. It's going to be Gostkowski, and neither one of us is going to win this long-term bet. But
I just hope one of them looks really great in camp and ends up being the Titans kicker for years to come. I know that's tough, but it's important to find one of these guys. You can't just keep going on 1-year rental deals for kickers. There needs to be some continuity and some security in that position. It's a tough position to figure out, and I just wish they could find a guy, hopefully like Hobbiel or McCann. Look, either I'm not going to be upset if one of them wins it over the other, but I just need them to produce for the Titans. I don't want that to be an area of concern where I have to close my eyes as the Titans have to hit a 38-yard field goal as time expires to go to overtime against the Steelers.
Dude, why did you bring that up? Yeah, I don't care who wins the job, just as long as they're good and as long as it's Tucker McCann. Just because there's more puns you can make with his name. All right, let's all right, before we get to Mickey Ryan, it's time we have the backup quarterback conversation.
Yeah.
Blake Bortles was cut by the Green Bay Packers today, and rest in peace to the Blake Bortles era in Green Bay. Started May 24th. It ended July 27th. I think it was the greatest run of a Green Bay Packers quarterback since Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
So now Blake, Matt Flynn. Oh, wow. The only shorter Green Bay Packers run by a quarterback that was better, like it was this good, was Matt Flynn.
Matt Flynn threw for 400 yards in one game, and
right,
ended up raking it in the following season.
And fun fact, Matt Flynn is also the drummer of Maroon 5.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Really?
So it's crazy that the guy went out and earned himself a huge contract with one great backup starting job for the Packers. And
so you're interested in Bortles. So
backs up Adam Levine. Yes, I want Bortles. I want Blake Bortles, okay? And I've got a case for Blake Bortles, okay?
I'll let you build.
Jack, let me ask you, how old do you think Blake Bortles is?
32.
32. Try 29.
Really?
Okay. 29 with the hairline of a 39-year-old. All right. Blake Bortles last year signed a 1-year minimum contract with no guarantees with the Packers on May 24th. So he'll come cheap. Yeah. Not expensive at all. Okay.
Big for the Titans because they're up against it with the salary cap.
Right. We're talking a guy who was in the AFC Championship game less than a decade ago, which it was like 6 years ago that he was in the AFC title game.
I think it was the 2017 season.
Was it the 2017 season?
I want to say it was the 2017 season. He was also the reason why that team didn't get to the Super Bowl. But you get to the AFC Championship game as a mid-tier quarterback, low-tier quarterback. You're doing your job.
Good call on that. He made it to the AFC Championship in 2017. That wasn't even the best season of his career. He's had great seasons. So you're getting a good guy. Plus, we're talking about a guy who was second team All Conference USA in 2012. So you're getting a gamer when you get Blake Bortles on your team. All right. Now, the reason I think Blake Bortles would be an addition, not because I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's a serviceable backup, which is what the Titans are lacking right now. Because right now on their quarterback depth chart, we've got Deshaun Kaiser and
Logan Woodside.
Logan Woodside. Thank you. I've been thinking about this all day. Deshaun Kaiser and Logan Woodside. All right. Deshaun Kaiser, if it's Deshaun Kaiser is the clear number 2 out of the Kaiser Woodside battle there. Okay.
Yeah, that's what we've been hearing, at least, is that Kaiser's been impressive. He's got the arm strength. The talent is there. Woodside knows the system. So that counts for something. But yeah, I think Kaiser has to be the favorite. If Vegas had odds on this, Deshaun Kaiser would be the favorite to win the backup job right now.
So I'll compare Blake Bortles to Deshaun Kaiser. All right. We'll leave Logan Woodside out of this. If it's Blake Bortles versus Deshaun Kaiser, I'm going with the guy who's with the first name that I know how to pronounce, because we're still not sure. Is it Deshaun? Deshaun?
It's Deshaun. It's spelled very Deshaun-y, though.
It's spelled very Deshaun-y, which, don't get me wrong, Shoney's is a great thing for the middle Tennessee area. All right. But I don't want a Deshaun as my backup quarterback. Okay. I want a Blake. It's very simple to pronounce Blake. You don't have to go to YouTube and look up how to pronounce Blake. All right. You might have to with
This
Deshaun.
sounds very senior citizen of you.
Well, sure. Maybe it is. I'm getting old, dude. We're all getting older. Newsflash. We're getting older every second. You hearing me now? Guess what? You're older now.
But like,
already.
if that was the case, if pronunciation was the issue, then Logan would be ahead of Deshaun.
Let's not get hung up on the pronunciation argument. That's
Okay,
just my first argument.
That's the opening.
Okay?
That's the opening statement. Okay.
Deshaun hasn't started a game since 2017. All right. Yeah, Blake hasn't started a game since 2018, but still. All right. Blake's career passer rating is 80.6 with a high of 88.2. Okay. His postseason career passer rating is even better at 91, meaning he gets better when the lights get turned on the brightest. Blake Bortles his arm just gets that much looser, or whatever you want to say. Yeah. He's only got 3 games of experience in the postseason, but people forget he was 1/2 away from a Super Bowl against the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
So I think it was New England Patriots.
It was the Patriots.
And beat the Steelers in the Patriots. Beat the Steelers in the postseason in Heinz Field. So look, Blake Bortles, and this is like 4 years ago, but so what? Like, I'll take that over a guy who has no postseason experience, a guy who has not started an entire season for an NFL franchise. All right. Deshaun Kaiser's passer rating is something like in the mid-50s. All right. Give me the better passer of the two. All right. Plus the
familiarity.
Thank you. The familiarity. Why can't I say that word? Familiarity. How'd you say it?
Familiarity.
Familiarity.
You just don't think, just say.
Familiarity.
Boom.
Plus the familiarity of the division. Wow. Jeez. What am I? A newborn? His Blake Bortles' best season came in 2015. Yeah, it's a long time ago. But it came in the AFC South. Okay. And you're probably like, Austin, the AFC South is completely different now than it was then. And to that I say, shut up, okay? Just shut up. All right.
The AFC South also never changes that drastically. And while teams may get better and other teams get worse,
sure, it's
kind of the same hodgepodge of at least one team competing for the number 1 spot, one team struggling to win 6 games.
Right.
And then a pretty solid divisional winner, a lot of times not exactly Super Bowl contenders. And then you have a wild card candidate. That's pretty much the structure of the AFC South every single season.
It's always the same 4 teams competing for that the number 1 spot. It's always just a mixture of it's usually it's one of those 4 teams winning the division.
Well, because the Colts got luck. The Titans got Vince Young,
right?
Although he was second, and they didn't draft anyone number 1, did they? I think they traded out of number 1 when they had it. And then they got the Texans are going to be number 1 next year. No question.
Yeah.
Jaguars just got Lawrence.
Right.
It's kind of like a revolving door. Each team spends some time in the basement before they could go up to the penthouse.
Right. And so my last thing I'll say on this argument is I feel really good about this argument. I've given this argument on this podcast before where I thought the Titans should have signed Blake Bortles. I forget when, but it was a while ago. I think going into last season, I said they should sign Blake Bortles, and they didn't. And look what happened. Not that he would have had any difference, but I felt pretty good about this argument. And especially when I go online and I see the same argument being made by the verified account at Tic Tac Titans. Okay. At Tic Tac Titans has my back. All right. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. Other people get it. But then I keep reading the replies to the tweet.
Yeah, I actually saw this thread earlier today. F words didn't exactly agree.
Let me just read this real quick. All right. So they're getting into the whole Kaiser Woodside debate. All right. Tic Tac Titan says, hey, I'm Kaiser over Woodside. But if Kaiser was good enough, we'd know it by now. I'm not risking the season on Kaiser. Give me the vet with the AFC title game under his belt less than 5 years ago. I agree with that. That's pretty much what I just said.
So I'll say this. There's no questioning who has the better track record, Deshaun Kaiser or Blake Bortles. There's no doubt that Blake Bortles has the more impressive resume. Deshaun Kaiser is 0-15 as a starter. He was a part of that Browns team that went 0-16. So that's kind of a blend. That's the only time in his career he played significant snaps. Those snaps didn't go well for him. But Blake Bortles, he hasn't thrown a pass in the NFL since 2019. And even in 2019, he only threw 2 passes that season. So he hasn't played significant time since 2018 with the Jaguars. I'm with you that I think Bortles makes the most sense talent-wise. I'd imagine Bortles has more left, and kind of knows the game, been in big moments. He would be a guy that, not a Blaine Gabbert, not a Zach Mettenberger, not a Matt Castle, but I would have at least an average amount of trust in the guy coming in.
Yeah.
Deshaun Kaiser, still don't really know much about him outside of that one season in Cleveland. Who he is still kind of up in the air and a mystery because, let's be honest, the Cleveland Browns that season weren't all that impressive. And he was throwing to guys like Josh Gordon, who played 5 games before got suspended for smoking weed. Then Kenny Britt at the end of his career was on that team. Corey Coleman, that wide receiver who was drafted in the first round, who's already out of the league, was on that team. So Kaiser didn't have a ton to work with, and he played on the worst team in NFL history, arguably. At 0-16, it's at least tied for the worst. But
yeah,
he didn't have a lot to work with, and he's still young. He can move around. He adds a dimension to the Titans' offense with that. He's a guy that if they see enough in, and he's got a big arm, so if Bortles is maybe winding down, and you mentioned he's only 29, but if he's kind of a stationary guy. And the NFL these days, pretty much everyone can move except for Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger.
So when I go online and I see that other people have this take, it makes me feel a little bit better. But and Tic Tac Titans basically states my case for me. And then I read the discussion. I read the back and forth going on here. And some guy named the People's Champ jumps in and says, I think Bortles is just as risky, if not more. LOL. Then Tic Tac Titans responds and says, see how that could be? LOL. First of all, already too many LOLs. A
lot of LOL
for my liking, personally. That is way too. They are not laughing out loud as much as they are typing it. Okay. Then the People's Champ says, have to remember that Bortles is older and has not started an NFL game in 2 years? Prime Bortles, I'd agree. Today's Bortles, meh, I don't know. Not so much.
Bortles also had the shortest prime of all time.
It was the shortest.
I mean, it lasted from 2015 to 2017.
I wasn't going to say that because it doesn't go for my argument, but you're right. It was a very short prime.
It's the shortest prime ever.
He says not so much. Feels like Gabbert, in my opinion. LOL. Again, another LOL.
We got to cut that shit out.
I know, but this is where it starts to get bad, Jack. All right. Tic Tac Titans says in all caps, exactly. Blaine went 2-1 as a starter for the Titans. He was a quality backup, and we'd be lucky to have him back. There might be 3 to 5 backups in this league that would go 2-1 in 3 starts, maybe less. Blaine Gabbert was a great backup, is the point. I, for the life of me, can't understand why people act like he did a bad job. This is where I'm like, oh,
Blaine Gabbert was an average quarterback, and I want to say I was at one of Blake Bortles' starts. It was against Washington. And the opposing quarterback had just been signed off the street because all of Washington quarterbacks had been injured, and he was starting against Josh Johnson. And it took I believe it was a 4th quarter pick 6 by Malcolm Butler to seal the deal. An electric ending to that game, which was boring for the first 55 minutes. But he beat Josh Johnson as one of those starts. So that pretty much doesn't count. And the loss was bad.
If you listen to this podcast, you know how I feel about Blaine Gabbert. I'm just oh, snap. So the guy who was making my argument for me also thinks Blaine Gabbert was a good quarterback. He's comparing Blake Bortles to Blaine Gabbert.
The zoo guys stick together.
I don't even know if I want Blake Bortles anymore after hearing that. I hated Blaine Gabbert. So the last thing he says, @Canadian_Titan jumps in and he says, really? Do you not recall week 17 of 2018 against the Colts?
That was the worst. I do. That game too.
Right? That was a nightmare. That was a nightmare. And that is one of the reasons why Blaine Gabbert will forever be on my dark list. Not to mention he kind of sucked when he was at Mizzou. That too. But
that game is a big reason why Andrew Luck retiring was one of the happiest days of my life.
Right. And Tic Tac Titan caps off the convo by saying, yes, I recall our backup almost went 3-0 and got us into the playoffs. Gabbert did a great job keeping us in the hunt. We'd be lucky to have him back. So now I'm like, okay, well, my argument's shot.
Blaine Gabbert did just win a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay.
Did he? Really?
I mean, that was probably the easiest ring in NFL history.
I mean, that was an easy ring for Brady to win, let alone Gabbert.
He's a Super Bowl champ, though. I mean, he's got that. Maybe he's like one of those hockey players, like Pat Maroon. If there's any hockey fans listening,
Chase Daniel's a Super Bowl champ.
Just bounces from team to team, and he's like the magic dust that elevates a team to a Super Bowl title, whether he contributes or not. It's just him being there is the presence that's needed. So, I don't think that's the case, but maybe.
With all that said, I guess Deshaun Kaiser's probably maybe we should just stick with him at backup. All right, let's get to Mickey Ryan, the man, the myth, the legend. But first, let's get a word from DraftKings.
DraftKings Sportsbook is not only my favorite sportsbook, but also America's top-rated sportsbook. Speaking of America, our top athletes are over in Tokyo competing for the gold, and DraftKings has a medal-worthy offer just for my listeners. Listen to this great offer. Place any pre-event wager of $1 to be eligible to cash $100 in free credits if America wins any medal this year. Any medal. They've already won so many. That's 100 to 1 odds on an American athlete to stand on the podium and receive gold, silver, or bronze this week. 100 to 1 odds on an offer like this does not come around often. So sign up to DraftKings Sportsbook now to get in on all of the action. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook. It's easy to navigate, has plenty of instructions for new bettors, and nearly limitless ways to get in on all of the action. My friends and family have been loving DraftKings Sportsbook, and I know you will too. USA basketball actually plays tonight. I know this will be listened to the following day. Hopefully they don't lose to Iran. They're 41.5-point favorites. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code A to Z Sports when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits if America wins a medal. That's code A to Z Sports to turn $1 into $100 in free credits for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Tennessee only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789.
And now let's get to Mickey Ryan. It's been way too long since we've had this uncle rejoin the family tree, the podcast. He is a former associate athletics director for external relations for Arkansas State. And honestly, I'll just go ahead and say it. Probably my favorite associate athletics director for external relations that we have had on this podcast.
From Arkansas State. Thank you.
Yeah, right. From Arkansas State. Yeah. Definitely, by far, at least top three. He can shred on a guitar. He hosts a radio show called Blaine and Mickey every weekday afternoon on 104.5 The Zone. Ever heard of it? And he's a proud member of the Two First Names Club. He is MICKEYY because we like him. Mickey Ryan. Mickey, welcome back to the Tighten Up podcast.
It's funny. I never knew I had two first names until you told me that. I've had to really try to cope with that news. I didn't know. It's like I went to college with a guy who had a lisp, and one day I mentioned his lisp, and he looked at me like I told him he had 3 brains. That dude, and he told me and with like decorated language that he didn't have a lisp, and he lisped when he said lisp. And I said, "You're proving my point." Other people in the room are like, "Hey, dude, you've got a lisp." This guy was well through college before he found out he had a lisp. I said, "We're the only people who love you enough to tell you about these things that you're dealing with in life." I think I may have said faults. That's not a fault. It's just who you are. But at the time, in 1990, you could say, "We're the only ones who love you enough to tell you about your faults." But it's not a fault. It's just how he's made.
Yeah.
It's not a fault for anybody. Yeah. Don't want to say
what
anything.
What are you talking about, Mickey?
We're not anti-lisp on this podcast.
I don't have a lisp.
Basically, it went like that, only he used other language when he told me that. and lisped while he was saying lisp, which just made it even better. That's a real thing that happened.
Mickey. That's what.
Hey, Mickey, while we're on the topic of Arkansas State, how's Butch Jones going to do?
That's a great segue.
Oh, Jack is like off the top rope with a chair in his hand coming at me.
That was one thing I circled that I had to ask you about.
Okay. Here's the interesting thing about that. I mean, I live in two distinctly different worlds. I have the Arkansas world, the part of me that grew up, 8 miles from the Wiener Cutoff Road, which somebody tweets me a picture of that sign every day on Twitter. There's a town near my town called Wiener, Arkansas, and there's a road that runs between the two. You can take the 2-lane highway that goes to Waldenburg and then go to Wiener, or you take the Wiener Cutoff, which goes directly from Harrisburg to Wiener, but it's a gravel road. I've recorded the demo.
Is it a straight road, or does it kind of curve to the left or the right?
No, it's straight. Some would say hard to drive down. But this Wiener
very
cutoff
long,
road,
right?
That's the road Mike Vrabel will drive down after they win a Super Bowl, right?
He closed that road down to win the Super Bowl. Let's just tell it like it is. I mean, I've recorded the demo in an abandoned farmhouse on that road. I've pulled a snake out of my bass amp to practice in that same abandoned farmhouse on that road. So there's that part of me that's so tied to Arkansas State and what's going on there. And then there's the part of me that's tied to living in Tennessee and covering the Vols and covering the SEC. And so Butch's name comes up for Arkansas State Twitter, and they're like, I like this guy's attitude. He's getting it done. Butch doesn't put up with any crap, Butch. And then somebody tweets about it from Tennessee. Familiar. And then somebody tweets about it from Tennessee, and it goes to a completely different place. And so it's really weird to have a foot in each of these two pools and try to balance the tide between the two. But Jack, to answer the question you asked me 7 minutes ago, I feel really good about him there. He had great success. He won 9 games twice at Tennessee, and people can do with that what they want. But he had some really successful teams earlier in his career at schools that were more on par with Arkansas State. And so he has really instilled discipline, and I've gone back and watched practice. He's put together a really nice coaching staff. And this is funny to say because I don't know if people believe it. The facilities there are unbelievable. They sunk millions and millions and millions into the facilities. They have some of the nice facilities in the Group of 5. And really, I mean, I've been to a lot of schools and a lot of football places, as nice as some actually in the Power 5. So he's got great facilities to recruit to. It's kind of isolated there. Jonesboro, Arkansas is not between anywhere and anywhere. It's between Bay and Bono. But nobody ever says, I drove through Jonesboro when I was going to California. I drove through Jonesboro on the way to – you don't go there unless you're going there. You don't go there. It's the weirdest place. It's like an episode of Fantasy Island where this town just appears in the fog, only the fog is like what got dropped out of a crop duster over a wheat field. So it's really funny because nobody ever just went there by accident. They only went there because they were going there. So nobody's ever seen this stuff. So when I talk about it, it's like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm sure it's real nice. It is, in the words of Cousin Eddie, real nice. So he's got a great place to recruit to. There's some good tradition there for the past 10 years. He's got something. I mean, he's got something that he can build on, kind of reestablish his legacy. And here's the thing. He's in his 50s. So if he goes there and he doesn't do well, he's probably going to be a position coach or doing something else or selling something. But he knows if he goes there and he does well, I mean, Hugh Freeze left from there for Ole Miss. We know how that ended. Gus Malzahn left there, went to Auburn. Brian Harsin left there, took his old job back at Boise State where he had started and played under Chris Peterson. Now he's at Auburn. And Blake Anderson is at Utah State. It was the last coach there. Everybody who's gone there has gone to a bigger school, bigger budget, bigger everything. So the opportunity's there. The pitch is there. It's just can he swing and hit it? And I think he will. I mean, I think he's going to be great for Arkansas State. I'm excited about having him.
Before we move on from the Arkansas talk and get into actual Titans talk, I thought this was
just an Arkansas State podcast.
Oh, no. Sorry, that's on.
We've rebranded since you last came on.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. We've gone full Titans now.
I was howling with the Red Wolves or something like that. I was super excited to join it all. I thought there might be like a regular cast member job in the offing here. I was hoping to really knock it out of the park.
I know. Mickey came in swinging. He was like, look, if this is an Arkansas State podcast, I want to be a co-host of it. I'm going to try and file for a spot. No, but before we move on from Arkansas, would you say, do you like Wiener?
Arkansas?
Yeah.
Wiener, Arkansas has the world famous Arkansas Rice Festival. And if you guys don't know about that, then shame on you. They celebrate all things rice.
When you say world famous,
harvesting rice.
How do you get the title? Rice. How do you get the title of world famous?
You're the only person in the world who does it. I've played music at the Arkansas Rice Festival. The first gig I ever played, besides the cafeteria at Westside High School, anyway, that's another story. The second gig I ever played was at the Arkansas Rice Festival. So there you go.
Wow. Well, hey, you learn something new every single day.
Sometimes it's boring like that.
No, okay, all right. No, I wouldn't say boring. I would say insightful.
Thank you.
Which
it's a long time ago.
You could say insightful is a synonym of boring. Mickey. I'm glad we have you here because first of all, it's been way too long since we've had you on here. I'm glad you're back in. But since this off season, I don't know if you know this. Like this podcast used to have a predominant beef with a Nashville media member. Some could say that you worked with them. He has since left, quote unquote, Nashville media. Kind of, I guess you could maybe say it's more national media, but it's definitely not Nashville media. So Jack and I decided to move our Nashville media beef to someone else, but we didn't know who. So this entire offseason, we've been holding Nashville media beef tryouts. Okay. And so what we want to know from you before we get into the Titan stuff again, we want to know, why do you think you're best fit to be this podcast's Nashville media beef?
Man. Well, but my love of Whataburger, so you could probably get it sponsored by Whataburger because it mentions beef. So there's, you could make money off of your beef with me.
There you go.
I should have tweeted at you. I had Whataburger actually coming up from Florida. I was in Florida for the past week. It came up from Florida. This was my first thing I had when I was on the road. We do need. Where are we on getting a Whataburger here?
Yeah, Jack, close? Write that down because we're close, aren't we?
Oh yeah, there apparently people send me pictures of like future home of Whataburger all over Wilson County, places like that. Now it's nowhere near where I live, but it's closer than Birmingham.
It's closer.
Yeah, that's true.
So I look forward to driving out past the airport to enjoy it very soon.
Right.
So we'll see, but they're throwing those things up apparently everywhere around here. I don't know what happened, some new ownership or something, but they're like, hell, let's double it. How many we got? Double it.
Yeah.
So they're going to Memphis. They're going everywhere.
I think there's one in Kansas City now too. Like they are literally going everywhere. And, which I'm happy. I'm happy for guys like you who swear by it. So, okay. So we can get it sponsored, but like, can you even hang in a beef? Like you're one of the nicest guys in Nashville radio really in media altogether. Can you like actually like fight us?
Would I say ugly things to you on Twitter?
Yeah.
Yes. That's all good.
Right. Yeah. Could you call us podcast Titan? What's the
Titans fanboy podcast?
Titan.
That wasn't our beef
podcast,
though.
which we were called.
Our beef was a nice man, as we consider you to be as well.
Oh,
obviously.
no, not the guy who sent us that was doesn't qualify for our national media beef.
A whole different world.
I don't usually engage trolls. So if you guys were trolling me, I don't know. I usually don't give. It's like a fire. If you give it air, then it continues to grow. So I mean, I'd have to go outside the box to go back at you guys. I don't know. I'd really have to think about it. I'd probably have to enlist the help of people who regularly do that sort of thing to say like, hey, give me some nice things to clap back at these gentlemen with. So they would, they would help me with that. Yeah.
Because that's a big thing when it comes to the beefs is the clapback. The clapback is very important when it comes to a beef. And
absolutely,
I wouldn't say we would necessarily troll you. I just think we would probably subtweet you or say, nasty things about you on this podcast. And then you would have to then in turn say nasty things about us. I don't know, wherever it may be in interviews and things like that.
If you attack me, it'd be interesting just because I don't get a lot of heat like that. Now, there are people who say I don't know anything and I'm just the biggest loser in all of media. There was a guy from Memphis who used to regularly just crush me. I mean, that dude hated me. It was amazing. I mean, I've never, oh my gosh, somebody like pointed out like, hey man, this guy's last 7 tweets are about you. He didn't tag me in any of them, but it's like, my gosh. Oh, yeah. This guy's garbage. And this got worse from there. And I'm thinking, man, wow. But I didn't clap back at him. He wasn't tagging me or anything. So I don't know. I might be the most boring, maybe the most boring person who ever lived. But I think I'd be a terrible guy to have beef with. other than the fact that you could get it sponsored.
Okay, well
because of Whataburger.
that's a good argument because no one else has brought that to our attention. Nobody else has thrown the money angle our way. Now, yeah, like would the beef be good? No, it'd probably be terrible beef and it'd be very boring, but we could make some money out of it. So that's a quick buck.
Quick buck.
That is an interesting angle to take. Hey,
that is very interesting. He's like Mickey's like, yeah, it would be a sucky beef. Like it wouldn't be that good or entertaining.
We'd all get paid a little. Yeah.
But
Austin,
we could make some money off this.
Austin, listen to me. I'm a former assistant athletic director. Okay.
That's right.
Actually,
of external relations.
Actually, a former, sorry, I sold myself, associate athletic director. And there is a difference. And I was associate athletic director. I know how to make money on things. So there you go.
That's smart.
Good point.
All
right, Mickey,
don't make me tell you again, or we will have beef.
We'll keep you in consideration. You made a good case, but
Okay.
Training camp kicked off today. We got Mike Vrabel. He talked about a variety of different things, but me and Austin were talking. You know, when does the football season start? Is it training camp? Is it the
Mike
Hall of
Vrabel
Fame
notes
game?
here.
Yeah, we've
wow.
gone over a lot of them. And I'll just ask you this: what did Mike Vrabel say that caught your attention most today?
Oh man. I am a notorious. I didn't learn much from that guy. So like anybody talks about anything and I'm like, did we really learn anything today?
Mhm.
Probably not. But the guy checked off a box. Like he had to talk to the media at this time in this place. And then we get mad because nobody tells us anything. And then when people tell us anything, we get mad at what they tell us. It's this vicious cycle that never stops churning. So I knew that there'd be a question about vaccines. And he said, I'm comfortable with where we're at. Now, I wrote that down. I put it in quotes. I'm comfortable with where we're at. Notice he did. And then somebody said, have you reached the threshold of 85%? And he goes, that's not even a thing. Like, why do you people keep asking about that? That's not a thing. There's no threshold. Do we throw a beach party when there's 85.6%? Do we get a coupon for a turkey? Do we get a swim party? What? It just seemed dumbfounded by that. And so Dawn Davenport, who's on 3HL on the radio station on 104.5 The Zone, she texted Blaine to me because we're like, he literally acted like 85% of what? So she said, there are some college conferences that have said there's a threshold you can reach and have like a more normal existence in your facilities. She said, I think that just got projected over to the NFL. And so now people keep asking these NFL personnel people about, hey, man, have you hit your 85% yet? And they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So it came from college, apparently. So Vrabel was like, I don't know anything about that. But he talked about vaccines. He said exactly what we thought he'd say. He's comfortable with where they are. He is a player's coach. And when you play as long as he did, I've always said this about Vrabel. He knows how to be a player of every phase in the league. He knows how to be a guy who's just trying to make the team. So he knows how that guy feels. He knows what it's like to be a star on a team that wins championships because he was that guy. And then at the end, he knows what it's like to be the aging veteran who's trying to just grab that one more year of glory on the team like he was with the Chiefs. So Vrabel can't just sympathize. He can empathize with everybody on the roster because he's been all of those dudes. So it was interesting to hear him say this, Jack. And again, 7 minutes later, here's the answer to your question. He said he has learned to take, I'm consulting my notes because it's earlier today. He said he's learned over time to invest more in the individuals on his team, the people, as well as coaching them on the field. And I asked him at the start of his second training camp, what's something you know now that you didn't know last year? And he said that the health of my football team is by far the most important thing that there is. So now here we are in year, what is this, year 4, 5?
This would be year 4, I believe. Right?
Year 4.
Yeah.
This is year 4. And he is saying, I've learned to invest more in them as individuals. So this is a guy who's evolving, who was already, I felt like a player's coach. He's evolving. The other thing was he got asked about the defense. And he said, essentially, hey, it wasn't all bad. We had some plays, but then we just had some third downs. And we're working on that. And I can't wait to see how it goes because they weren't all bad. And he ended by saying something like, it wasn't all just a complete disaster. And it wasn't those two words, but it was basically the same thing. It wasn't just a complete total disaster. But here's the thing. They put people in what? 3rd and 9, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 37, and it didn't matter. So they would have 3 plays that resulted in a negative net yardage, and then 53% of the time they would give up the 3rd down, which no one had seen that since the NFL merger, which was 1970. So we're more than 50 years out from that now. So I was interested to hear him say anything about the defense, because let's be honest, you look up and down the roster and it's like, man, the quarterback comes back. He's pretty good. Derrick Henry is literally a superhuman cyborg who was sent back in time to get 2,000 yards rushing.
That's
then
true.
You have Julio Jones and you have A.J. Brown, who we've all been looking for this. Think about it, fellas. We've been throwing the names Derek Mason and Drew Bennett around now for 15 years, waiting for the next either one of those guys.
Since 2003.
Right. So for 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, he's not Derek Mason and Drew Bennett. That's the last 2 guys they really developed. Okay. Well, now they have A.J. Brown, who's finally the next guy since 2003 or whatever. So then you have most of the offensive line returns. And Ben Jones is a great center. And Roger Saffold has turned out to be the guy that they paid for. And if Taylor Lewan is healthy, he's an all-pro. And Nate Davis, people who study offensive line players saying he should be getting more credit than anybody. He's having a fantastic career. Nobody's even talking about him. And then if you start Ty Sambrailo, he started last year. He started games. If you start Questenberry, he started games. If you start Lamb, he started some games in Cleveland. Or, oh my gosh, we have to start a 2nd-round draft pick. If you look at everything, and Ferkser, if there's anything that people say on offense is like, do they have enough at tight end? Well, Blaine Bishop, who knows football more than I could ever know in 10 lifetimes, has said, look, you only need so many superstar guys. I mean, he's talked about Ferkser and the guys at tight end. He said, I feel good about what they've got. It's not fantasy football. You don't need an all-pro at every position. You don't need 3 all-pros stacked up at every position. So most of the questions are on the defense. Like, can they rush the passer this year? Can they cover receivers? They're going to have 3 or 4 new starters in the secondary. There's just a lot of questions on defense. So anytime he talks about that, I'm going to be super interested to listen.
Yeah. There's, you hit on a bunch of that stuff, but there's also a few interesting position battles. And Austin and myself spent the first half of the podcast talking about the backup quarterback spot. What's going to happen?
That's what you were doing while I was waiting to get in.
What's going to happen at kicker?
Yeah.
Could have been the kickers.
We made you wait because look, we had some fire takes about why we think, or at least I think Blake Bortles should be this team's backup quarterback. So that's, look, you're going to have to take a back seat to our Blake Bortles takes, Mickey. That's just,
I mean,
if we want to keep advancing this
noodlers
beat,
who haven't turned over rocks that big. That's amazing.
But Mickey, I'm interested in wide receiver 4 and who that might be and what impact Des Fitzpatrick might have on this team. What do you have on that?
Well, what round was he drafted in, Jackie?
Well, he's a 4th rounder. 4th rounder, right?
4th round.
Yeah.
I'd say as of right now, that 4th rounder would be number 4.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to make the team. He's a 4th round pick. Is he number 5 then? Is Cam Batson number 4?
NWI.
I would.
NWI. Don't sleep on NWI.
Okay. I would think that whatever happens on those last few spots at receiver or even running back, it would be who can do some things, obviously on special teams, but maybe in the return game. So if you're Cameron Batson, probably how you make the team is to be the punt returner.
Yeah.
Right? Because if he's not the punt returner, then what is he? If he's not the punt returner primarily, and he knows the system and he seems like an awesome dude and he's made a few plays for the team, but where he is, when you've got A1 and A2, and then you got Josh Reynolds who's making a million plus, who's the 3rd guy. Okay, everybody else has got to play special teams. Everybody's got to. Those guys don't have to. Everybody else has got to play special teams. So it may be the return man who's number 4, but I mean, I would think they really want. I would think they really want Des to try to separate himself in some way. He's played a lot of football at Louisville. He doesn't have stats that really stand out. So for him, when they asked Mike Vrabel, they asked John Robinson about receivers, get open, catch the ball, get open, catch the ball. So can he get open and catch the ball? And again, this is something I learned from Blaine. We go out there and watch some guy in shorts and he looked like, Fred Biletnikoff and Jerry Rice's child. And Blaine would be like, nobody jammed him. Let's come back tomorrow when the pads are on. Let's see if he can even get off the line of scrimmage. So let's see what Des Fitzpatrick can do. But when you got an opening and you draft somebody in the 4th round, and that's the first receiver you draft, he has a legit shot to get there. But, I mean, he's really going to have to contribute on special teams, I would think, too, whomever it is.
All right. Now, let me ask you, what do you think about Blake Bortles? Should the Titans make a run for him? And look, I know this is crazy talk. This is like, this is one of those fan talks where it's like, oh, he's a free agent. Let's go out and sign him, But, I mean, the guy's going to be cheap. The Packers just signed him in May for 1 year with no incentives, very, very low, like team-friendly deal. That's what he's going to be demanding. He's cheap off the bat. He's pretty young. He's only 29. He's got NFL experience. Sean Kaiser, Logan Woodside don't have that. So wouldn't he automatically be an upgrade for the backup quarterback position, which this franchise should know very well is a very important position for this franchise? Because without the backup quarterback position, without them signing Tannehill a few years ago, this team could be in a lot darker place than they were. So a backup quarterback can either make or break a season if your number one goes down.
Well, the quarterback thing is interesting because there's only a certain number of individuals walking the face of God's earth who are a successful NFL quarterback. And guys,
yes,
we're talking like less than 20 of those people. Mm-hmm. Think about it. There's a lot of people on earth.
Yeah.
And there's like,
I think you could even go less than that. I think you go 15, probably less than 15.
Let's say 16, half the NFL. There's 16 people walking the earth who are that guy. 16. Right. If there's half the league has like that guy of any level at quarterback, 16 of those people. So then, then the herd gets a little thinner over the next 16, and that's the other team starting quarterback. And there's a handful of places you're like, boy, they're really, gosh, this crew's set. I mean, that was the Titans with Marcus Mariota. All these people rank position groups. And if you remember, the Titans quarterback room was really well rated that year. I mean, Ryan Tannehill is the backup. He could maybe come in and win you a game or two. This is what a former first round pick. What a fantastic quarterback room for the Titans. Honestly, backup quarterback situations in a lot of places, to me, you have to have a guy who fits your team and fits your personality. And he doesn't necessarily have to be exactly what the offense was, because a lot of teams, they have the clone of the guy who's the starter. They just have like the next knockoff version that they can find of him. Similar size, similar skill set. This is another thing Blaine and I have talked about a lot. What if you had a guy who runs who's the number 2 quarterback and just get out there and run around? Because sometimes you're more conservative when the number 2 guy comes in. What if the backup was a completely different dude? Now, he can run your system, but sometimes he's going to take it and run as fast as he can, as far as he can. I know you can't sustain that over a season because that guy's going to get destroyed. What if you needed it for a game or two or a half, and he threw something completely different at the other team? So whether it's Blake Bortles or it's anybody, and DeShone Kizer has some experience. Unfortunately, it just wasn't good experience. What was he, 0-13?
0-15 in his 1 year in Cleveland, yeah.
0-15 in Cleveland. But that was, oh my gosh, that was, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. It was doomed from the beginning. So, boy, there's some music reference for you. People are going to be sent to Google for that, or iTunes, but or anywhere you can take, and listen to your music there, kids. But honestly, I don't know. The backup quarterback thing is fascinating because let's say Ryan Fitzpatrick is your backup quarterback. That dude's been in the league